Hello, my friends. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the thoughts I have about shamanic journeying. Specifically, how to decode your shamanic journeys, how to understand them. So I'm going to break things up into three separate categories. There are shamanic journeys for self-empowerment. There are shamanic journeys to accomplish a goal, to do some kind of healing work, to do some kind of work, to accomplish something to create balance. And then the third is a shamanic journey for discovery, just to go out and explore, exploration. So I want to talk about all these three. So the first one is doing a journey to accomplish a healing. Now, before we start talking about shamanic journeying again, if you're new to my channel, let me once again tell you how shamanic journeying came about. And it is probably the oldest spiritual practice that we have. And in every single culture in the world, every single ethnicity, every single culture, every single religion, if you go back far enough in time, you will find people who did shamanic journeys. The word shamanic journey is just it's just fraught with so many problems because, number one, the word shamanism is a word that has all kinds of problems in it as well. There is no such word as shamanism. The word shaman is a Siberian word, and it represents the spiritual practitioner of the Siberian religion, which is called Tengerism. Tengerism is an animist religion. Animism is actually a much better word. When people use the word shamanism, what they really want to say is the word animism. Because shamanism means the priestism of a Tengerist religion, which doesn't make any sense. There's no such word as priestism. There's no such religion or practice called priestism. Shaman is simply the priest of the animist religion of the peoples of Siberia and Mongolia. Animism is the belief that everything in the universe has a soul and that everything in the universe can be communicated with, including my glasses, your car. Now, we could debate as to whether or not it's valuable to get into that kind of communication with inanimate objects or not, but that's what animism is. The belief that everything has a soul and that everything can be communicated with. And so rocks, trees, plants, birds, and all of these things, there is a spirit that governs all of those things. The spirit of ants, so a shamanic journey would be if you have ants in your house and you don't want to use all kinds of horrible chemicals to, kill the ants. If you had the power and the ability, you could perhaps go take a shamanic journey to talk to the ant the spirit of all the ants, and say, hey, can you tell the ants to get out of my house? It's causing me problems and I don't want to have to kill anybody or use any chemicals. And if your shamanic journey was successful, the ants would leave mysteriously. This is what a shaman, the kinds of things a shaman does. So we have to understand the history of it. According to, I'm only getting this like third-hand knowledge. According to a tribe in, I believe it's Alaska, an Alaskan Native American tribe, that they explain how people became shamans. And they say that a long time ago, humans didn't have any religion and they didn't hunt and they ate roots and things out of the ground. That's true. And it wasn't until that humans started hunting animals that they became aware that these animals have spirits and that these spirits can cause problems. So they employed shamans to communicate to the spirits of the animals they had slain so that they wouldn't end up having problems with those spirits, which can cause disease and, you know, curses and all kinds of other things. I was watching somewhere on YouTube, probably 10 years ago, maybe, I don't remember how long ago it was. It was a tribe in Africa that hunted in the traditional way. And this is the way all humans used to hunt, the way these guys hunted. What they would do is they would take 3 of their hunters, 3 men, and they would find the tracks of an antelope or whatever it was they wanted to hunt. And they would start jogging. So one of the reasons why humans jog, it's built into us, because that was the original method of hunting. We didn't use horses, we jogged. And so they would find the tracks of an animal that they wanted to hunt, and they did this really interesting thing with their hands, where they would put their hands over the tracks, and then they would put their hands out in the air, and they would use them as antennas to find where the animal of that track was. Same way that a dog does, sniffs the ground and then follows the scent. We follow their energy. And then they would find the direction, and then they would start jogging in that direction. Now, antelopes can run pretty fast. But these guys would jog, and they would jog, and there was one guy who was faster than the rest, and then they would come upon the animal. And then the guy who was fast would take off and start chasing after it. Now, of course, in the beginning, that antelope would take off and would be out of range, but he would use his hands to find the energy, and he would keep jogging. Now, humans can jog for a long time. That's why we do marathons for 26 miles. Antelopes can't run for 26 miles. They can go for bursts for short periods of time, but then they run out of steam and they get tired. Humans keep going. So what ends up happening is that they will jog for miles and they will run the animal down until it literally falls down and it's having a heart attack. They have a spear with them, and this was all being filmed. This was on some documentary. They were showing these guys doing this. And they caught the animal, and the animal was on the ground, and it's gasping for breath, and its heart is, it's having a heart attack. And they threw the spear in it. Now, the spear, they said, was just symbolic. It just threw in the energy to kill the animal. And the energy and the intent of the spear being thrown into the animal is what killed it. And then they did this amazing thing. It was in the sand, and they all sat around talking to the animal, apologizing for having to kill it, explaining to it that we have people back home that need to eat, my kids, my family, my mother, telling the animal how all the people the animal is going to feed. And then they're putting their hands in the sand, and they're putting sand over the body of the animal, trying to comfort it and help it go into the earth. It was really amazing. Really amazing. And so that is how people were when they first started hunting, how humans were when they first started hunting. And they realized that the spirits of these animals had to be appeased in order for people not to get sick from the meat, so that the people wouldn't get cursed, all that kind of stuff. And so shamans were necessary to solve a problem. We'll come back to that. So they went on to say, this tribe went on to say that humans used to dig roots out of the ground, and then they started to hunt. All of that is true. And they had to become shamans in order to appease the spirits of the animals they were hunting. That was the first and only reason that somebody became a shaman. If they had an ability to connect with the spirits of the animals that they had killed to keep themselves peaceful. Now that started to expand. And then the shaman was somebody that was looked to figure out what to do next. Where are the animals? And the shaman would go into trance, travel out of his body, and find out where, there's a herd of animals across the mountains over there. And then the shaman became used to communicate with the spirits of, that was causing illness, to understand the causes of it. So it created a whole science. But it came out of need. The need to solve life and death problems. Listen to that very carefully. A shaman is somebody who solves the needs of life and death problems of the community he or she lives in. A shaman is not a shaman without a community. It's just a mystic. We can talk about that. You're on here because you want to know about shamanism. So there are 3 kinds of shamanic journeys that I'm going to talk about. Of course, things are unlimited, but I'm going to talk about 3 journeys. First one is to solve some kind of a problem, to bring some kind of healing or balance. And this is what people do when they do what's called soul retrieval. I've talked about that. Soul retrieval is nothing more than the lower self. You have 3 selves: the higher self, the middle self, and the lower self. The lower self is where your identity is, your ego, which, by the way, is a construct. Your ego doesn't exist. My ego says, my name is Michael Denny, I am this YouTube teacher, and I'm 56 years old. I grew up in Southern California. I'm a surfer. I'm a this. I'm a that. Those are particulars of my lower self. The moment I die, all that stuff is going to start to fade, and I will go back to my infinite nature. I don't remember what that is now, is because my infinite nature, like a virtual reality goggle screen, is looking through my body, my mind, my brain, and on my lower self, and it's completely adopted that. So it's completely immersed in this virtual reality that we call life. Okay, so I don't remember what I was saying. Anyway, so first kind is to solve problems, life and death problems for the community. You're going to heal somebody. You're going to go, I was going to say that soul retrieval is nothing more than taking a journey to help somebody take their fractured lower self and bring it unity again, so that they have a cohesive identity that allows them to interact with the world. Your identity, your ego, is extremely important. People talk all kinds of garbage about ego and getting rid of the ego. Actually, that is false humility. That's narcissism. You need your ego. You need your identity. A fully integrated identity allows your soul to interface with this 3-dimensional reality and interact with other eternal souls that are also using these avatars to interact. Without an identity, you cannot interact with other people. Without an identity, you have no value here. Because the whole point of being here is to be able to interact with others and to help all beings achieve enlightenment, whatever you want to call that word. That is your reason for being here. Now, some people do that as being soul mystics. They're off in the mountains or in the jungle and they meditate. But you better believe that their meditations are part of what they do to give to the world. They've come to the realization that the most powerful thing that they can do for the world is to meditate and connect with the collective unconscious and help everybody's energy vibrate on a higher level. I'm going to get to you, those of you who have heard me, you know where I'm going with a lot of this. Okay, it's very important you understand that. So, going out and accomplishing something, some kind of healing, some kind of work, solving a problem, life and death problem for the community. Second one is that I don't remember what order I did, but I'm going to do it in this order. Second one is journeys of self-empowerment. These are the kind of journeys you take when you go to talk to your spirit animal, your spirit guide, your spirit teacher. I don't care what it is. You go to talk to the gods. Learning what your spirit animal is important because that allows you to gain power. Why? Because with that power, you will better interface with this world and with the people in it. You'll find your purpose in life. Hearing a theme here? It's a life and death problem. You need to know what your strengths are in order to be able to do your job. So when you hear, and my ethnic ancestors used to do a thing called sitting out. And it meant that you went out into the wilderness and sat and waited until you were visited by some kind of a spirit. That would give you the knowledge for some burning question that you had about, could be about yourself, or it could be about, how to protect your people. So when you go and you do a journey to talk to your spirit animal, you're going to learn about yourself, your strengths. It's going to give you its strength so that you can come back into this three-dimensional world and use that to be some kind of benefit to the rest of society. So I believe in those kinds of works, and my ancestors not only had a practice called sitting out, which is, what people want to talk about Native American practices. Our ancestors did it as well. So this is something that's common among all people. All people did this. I noted, I'm mentioning Native Americans because in the United States, actually, I take that back. I'm here in Australia, and it's really big. It's really, really popular for people to have, Native American cards and Native Americans this, and they talk about Native American shamanism. And, they don't understand that that's actually quite offensive to Native Americans. Native Americans don't practice shamanism because shamanism is the practice of the Mongolians and the Siberians. It's not a Native American religion. In fact, somebody said to me recently, I met somebody who went and talked to somebody else and said, "Oh, I just met this guy. He's a shaman." And said, "Oh, my friend said that you can't be a shaman because only Native Americans can be shamans." There's no such thing as a Native American shaman because they don't use that word. They might be animist. Their religion might look a lot like Tengerism, but they don't identify with that. So I point that out because you don't need to use somebody else's ethnicity. You can if you want, if you have permission. I've learned in multiple things: African shamanic drumming. I've learned Chinese mysticism, Vedic mantra, all that kind of stuff. But I had permission from people who had authority in those traditions. I don't have any idea what Native Americans practice. I only know what I see on the movies and TV. I have never trained with a Native American. I've had a couple of Native American friends, but they didn't tell me anything and I didn't ask. So I don't know I don't represent that. But I don't need to. And that's one of the things that Native Americans say a lot. Native Americans will say, "Why don't you practice your own? Why do you need to try and be like us?" Well, the reason is because if you're in the Western world, especially of European descent, your native traditions have been taken from you by Christianity. Christianity came in and wiped it all out. And so people have none, which is why the Western world is so screwed up. It's because it's lost its identity. And this is why there's such a huge resurgence of people wanting to go back and practice shamanism. It's because it's missing within them. But because it's missing, there's insecurity, there's self-hatred, there's a lack of identity, which is really what shamanic practice does. It gives you a real, true, deep identity in yourself. Because of that, they don't feel that they're worthy. They see themselves as the evil white oppressor. There's some truth to that. And so because of that, in order to escape the uncomfortable feelings within themselves, they want to be like somebody else. So they'll start practicing Native American shamanism. One of the biggest things I'm seeing here, which I got to tell you, I find personally kind of annoying, but it's the style, is dreads. White people with dreadlocks. Because in order for a white person to have dreadlocks, they have to do all kinds of stupid things to their hair, really unnatural things that's not good for your hair. People who have dreadlocks are people who have naturally very, very curly hair, and they just let it grow out naturally. And you end up with dreadlocks. So for white people to do it, to look more natural, but you're doing this really unnatural thing to your hair that's not good for it in order to pretend to be natural. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy in it annoys the crap out of me. But I have to get over it because it's a style and a lot of people are doing it. And it's okay. It's okay to have your style and do whatever you want. You don't have to dress or do what I want. I'm just saying that's my observation. When I see somebody with dreads, I see to myself, there's an insecure person. There's a person who wants to be somebody else or wants to fit in. That's what I see. So, getting off track as usual. First kind is you're going out and you're accomplishing a goal, a life and death goal, to solve a life and death problem for the community. Second type is to empower yourself, which is the same thing. You're going and getting your power from your power animal, or you're meeting with a guide, or you're meeting with a spirit so that you get information about yourself, your destiny, your power, what you can do, so that when you are in waking life, walking around, talking with people, doing what you do, you have the ability to be strong, to defend yourself, and to give and be of use to others. Then the third type of journey is what I call journeys of discovery. People who want to go out and go into other worlds and experience other worlds and all of that kind of stuff. Now, I just one of the reasons I'm making this is because of some comments that came on the early live, the most recent live Q&A. But also, I just got into a discussion with somebody on the channel. I'm not trying to, give this person a hard time, but this person had this very elaborate story about when they go into trance, they go to this other world, and there are all these strange things going on, and beings this, and is what is happening, and what is this? And my response was, are you gaining anything from this? Because if not, it's a waste of time. A true shamanic journey, even if it's one of discovery, is you will come back with information that will empower you, make your life better, help you to make more money, be more prosperous, be more healthy, improve your relationships with other people, heal things within you, and give you something to give to others. So if you're coming back, if you're having this elaborate journey where you're going off and you're meeting three-headed beings that talk out of the side of their face, and they swim and ride fish horses and whatever the hell it is, and you're coming to me saying, what does any of this mean? My response to you is that it means nothing. Because if you are doing shamanic journeys, the universe isn't going to waste its time giving you all of this information, this experience, just so that you can be confused and entertained. That was the first thing I said, is that shamanism is not about entertainment. His response was, it's not entertainment, it's a real world. And I said, I could care less if the world is real or not. Is going there giving you anything that makes your life and other people's lives better? And if the answer is no, or I don't know, then it's a waste of time. Listen, there's what he was trying to say is it's a real place. It really exists. So what? Vegas exists. Does that mean if I go to Vegas, it's strange lights and hookers and gambling and mafiosos? I mean, it's entertaining and it's interesting, but does it help me? No, I don't like going to Vegas. I can't stand it. I can't stand the energy of it. It's very bad. I need to be around nature and ocean and trees and weird sounding birds and stuff like that. That's what I personally need. I need to be around people who are conscious and seeking consciousness in their life and want to join me in that process. That's what I need. So Vegas really exists, but just because somebody goes there once a week doesn't mean that they're accomplishing anything. So if you're going to go on discovering other worlds, the universe, if it's a real shamanic experience, is going to take you to another realm to teach you something or to give you something, so that when you come back into this world, you have something to teach others. Going to some strange world with all kinds of weird beings and things like that means less than nothing if it's not you coming back and saying, I've understood that where humans are going next and where the human soul this because I met with this and I saw that. The universe is very conservative when it comes to energy. And so if the universe has decided to give you the ability to become a shaman, it's because it has something it wants to do through you and with you. This is why, I also have I get annoyed when people who believe that the word shamanism means taking hallucinogens. And it's a very flimsy connection because there are animist cultures that use hallucinogens in a very strict cultural manner. And they do it for the same reason. They do it to solve life and death problems. What the Taoists in China and the East Indians discovered is that hallucinogens are a waste of time. They're ultimately a dead end. So they stopped using them. And, if you've ever done any intense energy work, go up here to courses.thunderwizard.com and look for my Qigong, Qigong. If you really want a shamanic experience, try that. They found that they could achieve far more and achieve far more shamanic journey experiences with that than they could with hallucinogens. So if you're watching me and you think the word shamanism means using hallucinogens, that is a modern interpretation. And hallucinogens, they don't, unless you're in a culture, like if you grew up in a South American, Native American culture, and from a child you grew up with those people, with their teachings, with their understandings, living in nature, and your identity is firm and complete and strong, and under the guidance of the well-trained shaman there who can look in your aura and see whether or not you will benefit or not. And most of the time they know that these are very powerful poisons. Ayahuasca, for instance, is a poison. It's why you hallucinate. They understand that, and they look to see if in your aura this is going to be helpful or not. And most of the time they will say no. You don't get to. You are not going to take some this time, because they can see that you don't have a destiny for it. And again, if I talk from the East Indian or the Chinese perspective, they're going to say, "Well, listen, there's the downsides of using those chemicals is so great. There's no need to do that. We've learned how to do that, release those same chemicals in the body, and your body actually is healthier afterward. You take hallucinogens, you're not healthier afterwards." So it gets back to this narcissism. So the same thing that I'm talking about in terms of Westerners going and trying to use the techniques of another culture when they themselves do not have the psyche, their psychology is not constructed in the right way to benefit from it. In fact, quite the opposite. What I've found with many Westerners, in fact, most who seek out shamanism, spirituality, mysticism, most of them are broken. Most of them have deep, unresolved childhood pain, or just pain from living in this very empty, materialistic society that we live in. Their psyche is broken. And so they seek to escape. They think spirituality will make them feel good. This is, the search for enlightenment. People want to become enlightened. They want the golden dragon body or the ascension or whatever it is. They're trying to escape. Listen, it takes one to know one. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. And I can tell you from my experience, the gray hairs on my beard tell me I've been around a little while, that there's no benefit in it. So you can read about my shamanic journeys. You can go to courses.thunderwizard.com and you can go to where my books are. And I talk about my shamanic journeys and what I learned. And you'll see that every single one of those journeys that I talk about resulted in me becoming more whole as a person and having knowledge to give to the world. And that's the whole reason for them. So I want to ask you a question. If you are somebody who likes to journey outside the body, take astral traveling, whatever it is that you do, and you want to call yourself a shaman, you're welcome to call yourself whatever you want. But I want to ask you, do you take pride in that? Like, do you say with pride, I am a shaman? I astral travel. I astral traveled last night and I saw this world with three-headed fish people that smoked cigars and farted gold. And do you take pride in that? Because if so, in my book, you're not a shaman. There's a lot of people out here right now, firefighters, who are out fighting these fires. They do it because it's a life and death need. They may have some take some personal pride in doing that job, and people are definitely have a lot of pride for them, but they do it because there's a need. They don't do it because they themselves have this personal need to feel a certain way or become something. So if you have pride associated with this, and the comments I get where people want to say, the other day I traveled to such and such world and I saw this, and what does it all mean? I just see, somebody who's doesn't understand, and somebody who's probably trying to escape themselves. So the bottom line is that whatever shamanic journeying you're doing, are you bringing back information or power that benefits your life? How do you know your life is benefited? You have better relationships with people. You are physically more healthy. You make more money. You have more prosperity in your life. If you are somebody who spends all their time meditating or going on shamanic journeys and you're poor, you're broke, you're unhealthy, you're addicted to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it is, then I have a lot of doubt as to whether or not your shamanic practice is genuine. Or if you are simply somebody who's in a great deal of pain and you're seeking to escape. It's okay if you are seeking to escape, just acknowledge it. And instead of escaping, do the work. Real shamanic work, real spiritual work. The whole point of meditation is to explore yourself and to improve. And that's the next question. Are your meditations, in your meditative practice, is your life getting better or is it getting worse? Okay, these are questions you want to ask yourself. So I put on here how to decode your shamanic journeys. It is true that sometimes shamans work in teams. Like in my ancestors, there was the wizard and there was the seethe practitioner. Seethe means to boil. And that would be similar to like the wizard and the prophet. So the seethe shamans, which were usually women, they would be mounted by the gods and the gods would speak through them. And they might give prophecies and other things like that. They might see something and tell people what they're seeing. The wizard would be able to interpret. He would know exactly what it meant, what the symbolism was, and he would be able to interpret what that all meant and then apply it to solve the problem or help people. So there are times when you're going to go on journeys and you're not going to know what's happening. But the universe isn't stupid. It knows what it's doing. So if you're meant to be like a seethe shaman, then you will be paired up with somebody who can interpret what you're doing. The universe isn't just going to take you aside and dump all this meaningless stuff into you and then not, create an avenue for that to be manifested in the real world. Let me make something really clear. We live in I've got here the tree of life. We live in a 9-dimensional universe. We live in one of the dimensions called the middle earth, the middle world. The other 8 worlds converge upon the middle world, like spokes in a wheel. That's why we use the thunder wheel in my tradition. We are in the center there, and all of those other 8 directions have their energies that they funnel into the center. This world is the focus of the universe. Let me say it again. This world is the focus of the universe. If what you're experiencing does not directly relate to you living in a physical body and interacting with other people, then at best, your experiences are meaningless. At worst, they are your own delusions. There's no shortage. I would say the majority of people who contact me wanting to tell me about their shamanic experiences, the vast majority of them are deluded. And they're escaping into their own narcissistic, unconscious dreams and fantasies. There's value in that, but all it really tells us is what's going on with, the problems with your identity. That's why psychiatrists love to hear about your dreams, because it tells them about your projections and all the stuff that's going on and how they can best help you. But it's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's about you. It's about things that are out of balance within you. Shamanism is about balance. If going on shamanic journeys results in you being confused, that confusion is a lack of balance. Okay? So get your ego out of the way. I mean, if you wanna do shamanic journeying for entertainment, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to travel to other worlds where people have fish heads and fart out gold, you can do that. It's okay with me. But don't come to me and tell me that you've had some amazing shamanic vision, because my first question is going to be, well, what do I do with that? What information that you've given me is there to help me? Because let's remember, the whole purpose of shamans, the whole purpose of it is to solve life and death human problems. When you're living out in the woods and you don't live in society with technology and supermarkets, you are all about your physical survival. And so your spirituality is going to be focused on your spiritual survival. That's why I'm a polytheist, because people became polytheists because it helped them survive in the real world, in the practical real world. That's why I'm a polytheist. Okay? So those are some of my thoughts about how to decode. Bottom line is that you'll be given information. You will know. If you have a journey where you don't understand what has been given to you, then take that information. Sometimes it's just one word or one phrase or something, and sit with it and meditate on it. Do some research on it. It may be a while before the reason for that comes to light. I want to be clear, there are some times where you don't completely understand what's happening. But in time, it will either become clear to you that you have been given some knowledge that has practical use in this world that makes your life and other people's lives better, or you will come to the conclusion that it was just your unconscious narcissism. We have dreams. I have dreams all the time. I have strange, weird dreams that don't mean anything. It's just my brain farting out whatever's going on inside of it. Okay? It's just your own personal narcissistic bubble within yourself. All right, said enough. I'm repeating myself. All right, that's it. I will see you guys soon.